Hey, folks.
Hey, Andrea. Yeah, Andrea, I guess while we're waiting for everybody, on the slides, so I think there were those slides that I was putting together. I'll just send it back to you in the PowerPoint format, and then you can just copy and paste them into the deck that we need to submit.
Okay.
I think it was just those three, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I think Miranda had a couple, so I'm reaching out to her and get those.
And you said you'll be out tomorrow?
Friday and Monday.
Okay. Yeah, it's really different being on the West Coast and having these calls early in the morning.
Welcome to my world.
Yeah.
Hey, folks, we'll give everybody just a minute or two to see if more folks join.
Hello, good morning, good evening.
Hi, Lily. Good evening to you.
Good morning, Ryan.
Very much between you guys. It's almost lunchtime.
I think we've got a good few people. Maybe we can get started. Thanks everybody for joining. Hoping that we'll see some of you in Dublin in 2 weeks. We kind of wanted to be able to give you a preview of what this embodied carbon disclosure working group has been up to and how we're approaching this and get your feedback. Ryan's going to go ahead and bring us through our plans for this next phase. As you know, over the past year, we've had a couple different iterations of an online collection form for carbon disclosure for data center materials and equipment, including both IT equipment and MEP equipment. And we're making a bit of a shift based on the feedback that we've gotten and all the lessons that we've learned over the last year to a base specification model. And Ryan's going to take us through our thinking and our planning on this. So Ryan, I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, sure. So let me pull up a few slides. And I think, really the shift, it is really based on the industry engagement and all the participation we've had from so many people who have wanted to be a part of this. And I think, really, if you were to, and sorry, I only have one screen today, so let me know if you can see this, and I'll try to get it bigger here.
We can see
Can
you.
you see that?
Yep.
Okay, yeah. I'm still working to make these pretty, and we'll have that ready for regional. But I think that the takeaway after a year of pilots and POC and just direct engagement is that the industry, the level of maturity around the capability of doing a carbon disclosure varies greatly. And luckily for this last pilot that we did, we had 12 different participants submit a form, 10 of which just provided feedback because they weren't ready. They did not have any sort of measurement methodology capability, but they still provided feedback. So of the 10 that we had, I was just looking through some of the responses again today. We had a lot of diversity in what was submitted. We had everything from ICT to MEP, even a core and shell submission. But there were nine different methodologies that were used, 8 different databases that were used, and just the feedback was generally that the teams were in very different places and their ability to do this easily. So some people said this was really easy; they could do it really fast. Others said it was difficult, just based on where they were. And so that's why we're really shifting to trying to define what a disclosure is as a base specification for OCP. So I'll just go through a few of these bullet points here, just so everyone is sort of on the same page. We launched this initiative back in 2024. We had a pilot, like I was just discussing, with aimed at engaging the supply chain and the crucial task of measuring and reporting embodied carbon. We had a specific aim of aligning the industry on a standardized framework for disclosing the carbon. And as a result of what we've learned, the workstream has identified the basic list of minimum data requirements, which we would like to propose for adoption as an OCP carbon disclosure specification. And it's really important to point out that this base spec, it is not a data collection tool. It's not a database. It's not a measurement guide. It is an industry spec that will define what a carbon disclosure looks like. And then this is really where the shift was. We first started out with this goal of maybe creating a label or a tool for collecting the data. And now we're shifting really towards defining that specification. So the specification is actually pretty simple. It includes 4 different sections. You start out with the respondent identification. That is the who is actually providing the carbon disclosure. The second section is product identification, what the product is that's being disclosed. And then the third, which is the most important metric, of course, which is the quantitative data point, is the embodied carbon footprint. And then finally, the last section is the measurement methodology. This is how that embodied carbon was calculated, and it's a really important context, especially as it relates to the ability for comparability. Here I've got a lot more details on what is actually included in each of these sections. Really the who is really just trying to understand who's actually filling this out. Is it a random person? Is it somebody with an actual qualification to submit this data? The product identification is really understanding, is this ICT, MEP, or core and shell? And then again, it's the embodied carbon footprint, which is the most important metric. And then finally, the measurement methodology and how this was calculated. So this is what we will, this is a very high level overview of what the spec looks like. We're putting this into the spec documentation for submission. And yeah, that's it.
And I'll just underscore too, I think the crux of this, I think knowing that there is just such a variety in the kind of carbon data that is out there and the needs of the industry to kind of catch up and create more of these, it really underscores the fact that this is a supplier and customer engagement opportunity. And I think this base specification gives that opportunity to open up the communication for a customer to say, I need this kind of information to know what page we're even on. And this is a tool for customer supplier engagement. And we hope that the industry will see it this way. And we can use this as a springboard to continue to evolve these kinds of disclosures and the proliferation of carbon information that exists in our industry.
And it's a first step. I think this is really a first step.
So I'd love to hear any comments or questions or suggestions. Not everybody at once. Is anybody going to be in Dublin in 2 weeks? Anybody on this call?
Hi, Andrea. This is Loza from Vertiv. Yes, I'll be in Dublin for the OCP MEA Summit. Looking forward to meet you all.
Wonderful. And Loza, we will be getting this, a copy of this online and would love to get your feedback. We'll be sending it out through our OCP IO group before we leave for Dublin. We want to give everybody a chance to read through it and have a chance. We'll have an email address where you can send us some feedback, but also when we're in Dublin, let's get together. Let's hear what your reaction to it is after you see it.
Yeah, of course. Okay.
I also want to make it aware that this will be shared again. So if you have colleagues that won't be in Dublin, first, reach out, find us, get in contact with us face to face as soon as possible. That would be ideal. But it'll also be circulated with the top level sustainability project at their monthly call. That'd be another opportunity for comment, and then for any of your colleagues or other people in the industry, you might want to make aware of this to please join that call. And then there will be an open comment period for this first version before the final draft gets submitted to the steering committee and then becomes a published spec. And then long road, that this isn't the final document that dictates everything forever. It's not in stone. This is the first version of a base specification that hopefully will have many iterations following it. So plenty of opportunity for more people to get involved as well. It's not over. This is the beginning.
Well, I'd love to use more of the time. Just curious for the folks that kind of join month to month or are new here, like what made you join this? What are your kind of interactions with your suppliers or with your customers around carbon disclosure?
Hi, I'm Savita. I work in the carbon measurement governance team at Amazon. And I think we look at carbon measurement across all areas where Amazon works. And it'll be good to have details of the specifications so that we can also get folks at Amazon looking at this. Yeah.
Wonderful. And yeah, and again, it's our hope that it'll be a way to coordinate all the different kinds of disclosures that you get, because we're not dictating how the disclosures come in or how the disclosures are calculated, rather a standardized format for requesting them. So we'll really much look forward to your feedback, Savita.
Okay. Is there an online document or a document which has more details on the questionnaire and stuff like that? Like, is there a link that I could?
Yeah, we're going to be publishing this base specification before Dublin, so I think we'll try to send it out by next Friday to
Okay,
the
sounds good.
IS group. Yeah, and then and we have an archive form of the online form that we had been collecting, and I think we had closed that out, but we'll get an archived version of that out to folks as well, so you can kind of see how we were asking all of those questions.
Yeah, I think what we'd really like to do, and to have it as sort of an attachment with the spec, is a template of what would sort of I guess comply with the base specification. So it's our own, it's basically a blank version of the form that we created. And it basically asks all of the same questions that we're putting in the specification. So it would be an example that anyone would be welcome to use and adopt, and they could use it themselves, or just make add to it. Or obviously there's so many different ways that you could request this information. So it's really just something that we want to share as a template for others to use and have as a guide.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah. Will it be sent on the mailing list itself, or?
Yeah, that's how we plan to send it out.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks. Yeah.
Nice.
Just because I've made the mistake myself, and for those of you who've not met me, I'm Rob Coyle. I work for the OCP Foundation team, so we're really just the framework and enablement that allows volunteer leaders like Ryan and Andrea and Elite and many other people who have worked on this. The mailing lists, if you're subscribed to the sustainability mailing list, does not mean that you're getting all the updates from all the other work streams or sub-projects. So you want to make sure that you're subscribed to the carbon disclosure mailing list. We'll likely share it out on both lists, but in case you're missing updates or something has happened and you're uncertain why you didn't get that message or that meeting, The mailing lists are specific to the workstream subproject or project.
Okay, I think I must add myself. Yeah, I'm not on the carbon disclosure work stream. Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah.
Okay, great. And we won't spam you. You probably get occasional meeting invite messages and only critical updates like the proposed draft for the carbon disclosure spec, things like that.
And
Sounds
every
good. Yeah,
Friday
thank
a
you.
20% off coupon or whatever. No, I'm just kidding.
Are you up to date on your car warranty?
Right. Well, we don't have a lot else. We are really just gearing up for this release of this before the summit, and looking forward to meeting folks who are going to be out there. I see Holly Elwood just joined. Hey, Holly.
Yeah, hi everybody. Holly Elwood from the Global Electronics Council. Andrea and I go way back from when she was there. Good to see you again.
to see you.
I wondered if you could talk about where things landed in the carbon disclosure form, which I've just kind of glimpsed at with Miranda a few times, related to specifically asking about equipment and specific equipment carbon disclosure metrics or information that you might ask about.
Yeah, so we had been using an online forum to collect this kind of information across equipment, both ICT and MEP equipment, as well as materials for core and shell. We are now switching that over to a base specification, an OCP base specification, a standardized format for asking for customers to ask their vendors for the carbon disclosure information. So what is the embodied carbon figure that you have for any given piece of equipment or material, and what are the ways that you got to that number? So did you use an LCA? Did you use a spend-based approach? Did you use TM65? And then the supporting evidence that comes with that. So, if you used a spend-based approach, what are the emissions factors that you utilize? If you ran an LCA, what software did you use? What are the PCR that you adhered to? Basically trying to help the industry build up the supporting evidence of what build up the proliferation of embodied carbon disclosure period, but then also the supporting evidence of how those calculations were come to. So we are going to be releasing and propose a draft specification, pitching or not pitching, but submitting that for review to the OCP. What do they call it?
Steering committee.
Steering committee in the next couple months.
Great. Okay, thanks.
And we'll put it out for review. And if you're on the mailing list for this group, put the draft out for review next week.
Excellent. Okay, thank you. I know Miranda said she was getting the deck ready for the Ireland conference, and so was saying that she'd be sharing that at some point. But that's really good to hear that the full disclosure form will be ready to share too next week. That's great.
And for other people's information, Holly was with the EPA group also working on the embodied carbon disclosure for materials work that was going on. That I think.
Yep.
Holly. Hi, Holly. I'm Ryan. I'm one of the other co-leads for the workstream. We have some time. I would love to hear maybe just a 1 minute summary of where did that project. What's the current status? Some of us were listening. We were very interested when it first got initiated, and that's actually really interesting. Once we get past this base spec being adopted by OCP and really having I think one of the first industry standards of defining what a carbon disclosure actually is. Our next step and beyond the regional summit was going to be connecting with those other concurrent projects, other organizations, agencies around the globe that we can start to collaborate with and figure out if they could help adopt what we've defined as a specification and help get that proliferated across other industries. So I think the EPA and the project that was going on was one of those, on the top of our list of an organization we really wanted to work closely with. So I'd just love to hear what's, I guess.
Well, I'm so excited to get to meet you, Ryan, and to get to be part of this group because I've heard your name now and was looking forward to connecting. So, yeah, let me give you a little background, a little more background on me. So, I spent 30 years at EPA working as one of the leads on federal sustainable procurement, and specifically was our lead on sustainable IT and coordinating US government engagement in EPEAT and building the sustainability criteria, and then getting a requirement to procure sustainable IT. And then I shifted 3 years ago when the Inflation Reduction Act happened to lead the effort to stand up a new label for low embodied carbon construction materials, which I know was of a lot of interest in the data center space because of concrete and steel being such critical materials and huge opportunities there to shift to lower embodied carbon versions of those materials in construction. So what happened? So we were given $350 million to put out a huge amount of grants to help advance this marketplace and for construction materials, and then also 100 million to stand up this label. And we were going gangbusters. We built out a huge amount of key guides that could help to further improve the industry because there's a lot of need to improve the quality of product category rules that outline how you build an environmental product declaration. And so we put together a set of PCR criteria that outlines basically what we recommend product category rule operators need to do to make sure their PCRs are really as effective as possible in giving you quality data in EPDs, and making sure that you're not allowing people to use disparate sets of data to be able to come up with their embodied carbon numbers, because that's the reality today. And so I would recommend that this group really look at that PCR criteria, which I think is still publicly available today. Your question about like, where is all that great work? Well, I left in large part because it was going to be shuttered, and it sure as heck has. We had 4 people when the Biden administration got the Inflation Reduction Act implemented, and we were able to build up to a team of 24 people that were just fantastic experts from across the country. Unfortunately, 10 of those were probationary employees, and 8 of those people were let go. And now the rest of them have basically been directed to work on chemicals, because the office that I was in at EPA also manages chemicals regulation. So nothing is really happening at all at EPA on low embodied carbon anymore. They're not being allowed to talk to other people outside of EPA in most cases. There's very little work happening, unfortunately, and they're all just waiting to find out what the result of the reorganization plans and the reduction in force plans will be in the next week or two. And most likely, the entire division that was responsible for the low embodied carbon work is going to be annihilated. So if companies care, now that I'm not at EPA, I can say this stuff. If you care about them existing, now is the time to go and let your senators know that you care and you'd like to see them continue to be there, because we did truly have some of the national experts on that team, and there's still a few of them are still there, and would be able to do some pretty impressive work around steel and concrete if they were able to, have the shackles released from their wrists and have their jobs continue. So that might have been more than what you were expecting.
Thank you for sharing. It's great. It's very great information. It's very helpful, and hopefully we'll have a lot of time to talk in Dublin. We've learned.
I won't be in Dublin, unfortunately. I just learned about it, but I'm excited to see the presentation that you guys are going to give there. So, yeah.
I think we have learned a tremendous amount about where the industry is over the past year and a half in our direct engagement with all of the participants and volunteers that have been a part of this work stream. And I think we have a really good understanding of the challenges that are faced, and that's why we've evolved our own sort of objectives of what we initially set out to build a robust tool or a label, and now we're at this point where we really just want to help the industry align on what a disclosure is as a first step, as a base specification. So a lot more work to do, but yeah, really great to have you on board and looking forward to working with you.
And
Yeah, and maybe I could also just point out that because you're at this point where you're, needing to gather data and you want to get your supply chain to think about ways that they can reduce their carbon impacts so that you can roll that up into the reports you do for SBTI, et cetera. I think that there's a lot of value in looking at the climate criteria that EPEAT has in place right now. We have a lot of products that we have registered as meeting the new next gen climate criteria that we have just updated. And so there's some really, I think, great products out there that we've already, we have in our registry that you could use right now in data centers and throughout the IT space. So I encourage folks to take a look at that. And if you'd like a presentation where we walk through what that criteria looks like, we'd be happy to do that. It includes some criteria around points for doing product footprints, which some of it gets to and encourages development of EPDs. And so I think it does start to align with some of the things that you guys are focused on to actually get at quantification. But then it also outlines specific steps that supply chains can take to reduce their climate impacts. So happy to present on that and bring the team in if that's useful to folks at all.
I think that would be
Yeah, great,
incredibly
thank you.
useful.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah. So Holly, I'll coordinate with you on that.
Okay, fantastic.
And then, and also just as far as the PCR criteria and all of that body of work that the EPA did, if that gets taken down from the EPA site, do you know if that means that it's just inaccessible, or could we download and link to things? Like what is the rules around any of that kind of stuff? Do you know?
We're in an era where rules don't matter anymore, Andrea. And so what I would encourage is for you to archive the PCR criteria and all the other great resources that have been put up on the website that we had for our low embodied carbon work at EPA, because we don't really know what's going to happen and what's going to be allowed and not allowed in the future.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Good advice.
Yeah.
I don't know how many people on this call are familiar with kind of the OCP framework and how the work product gets created. Andrea, do you think it'd be useful to just do an overview of like how this document is actually going to become available to the public?
I would love that. Yeah.
Okay, great. I'll do the nickel tour on OCP work. So those of you who are not familiar with OCP and how work products, so we have our structure. Oh, this is my entire desktop. Let me try again. Here we go. Hopefully you're just seeing the website window. So all the work, quickly for those of you, just in case somebody is not familiar, OCP is structured into 12 major areas of focus. All these areas have projects, sub-projects, and work streams underneath them. There are nearly 200 work streams active currently right now. There are 400 corporate member companies operating within OCP, which includes thousands of engineers, like the volunteer leaders and all the contributors that are on this call today. And so a major way that the work product that comes out of these work streams, we call contributions. So if you come to the OCP website, you can propose creating a contribution to any of our projects. And like this one, if accepted by the top level project, you form a small committee, you start working on it, and that's this work stream call that you're on today. So this base specification is one of the contribution types that includes hardware, white papers, best practices, case studies, whatever it may be. But in this case, it's a specification. And in specifications, I will just show you the process here real quickly. We have an entire database of contributions. hundreds of documents that everything from hardware design files to best practices within the data center industry. This will be one of them. It will be published under a contribution license agreement, which is produced by the Open Web Foundation. So very similar to the way software is open sourced and open licensed, this document will be as well. Therefore, anything that's contained within the specification can be freely used by anybody who wants to leverage it. And so that means if you're a separate company and you want to use this specification as the way you collect your carbon data, you're free to use it. You don't have to pay anybody licensing. And really, things that happen within the Open Compute Project are different than standards organizations. We don't sell standards. You don't have to be a member to use our standards. They really become the de facto standard. And really, standardization is what we're looking for. And so that's why it's freely licensed and listed. So this group will share it to the project. They will also share it with our steering committee, which is a group of elected individuals that oversee the 12 major areas. And then upon their vote and completion, we will publish it on the contribution database. So in this database, anything here is, any of the information here has been licensed typically under Creative Commons or in a signed license agreement. So anything within here you want to download, take a look, use, make your vendors comply to, share it with your customers, you're free to do so. You don't have to be a member of OCP. So that was the quick tour. Any?
Yeah, Rob, this is Holly. Sorry, I did get a chance to look through your website before, but I really drilled into the sustainability team. Is that what you call it? Sustainability team work?
It would be a project.
Project, okay. And then I saw the sub working groups or teams that you have there. But I'm just curious if you could explain again where the products are located that, like the carbon disclosure form, where can I get to those?
Yeah, so that would be what we call contributions here at the top.
Okay.
So
okay.
Project is where the work happens. Contributions is where those specifications and really the IP that gets shared is at. And then eventually, once it reaches the market, and this would be kind of future phase, is our OCP marketplace. And we have products that actually exist in the market that you can purchase right now. And those comply with an existing openly licensed specification within the OCP ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
So that includes racks, hardware, whatever it may be. Our intention with this specification is to recognize product that have their carbon disclosure in this standardized form that comply with the specification available to a customer. One of the feedback we got is that not everybody's comfortable at the same level of sharing that information publicly. We're not going to publish the carbon disclosure data. We're just recognizing that the products that are available and listed have the ability to share a carbon disclosure that is in this format.
I see. So you may have a list of OCP compliant products where the vendor of that product has provided and has available a carbon disclosure form that people can ask for. Is that right?
Yes, they'll have the data available. They would not have submitted it to us. We don't want to own any of that information. That's theirs to control how they share it. If they want to share it publicly, we'll hyperlink to it. We'll amplify it. We're happy to share carbon data that's out there, but really, it's they're self-certifying that information is readily available.
Okay. Well, if there is any ability at this point in the process for there to be a question asked of the vendor as to whether or not they have EPEAT registered products for the relevant product categories, that might be helpful to make that connection to the climate criteria that we have there. Just want to put that out there as something to think about for servers and for network equipment, although we're working right now to get product in that category. We don't yet have that. And any of the other products that we cover, imaging equipment, computers, TVs, mobile phones, PV modules, etc. So, but this is great. Thank you for explaining, Rob.
Yeah, no problem.
And I'll also say I love that idea. Obviously, I would have made the same case when too, but I also think that might be a next step kind of thing, because right now we're just looking at transparency, and my desire is to move this into decarbonization. Like this is the first step in figuring out how do we utilize this transparency to drive down carbon impact. And I think that that is one of the first kinds of questions that would be relevant to that kind of thrust of the work stream too. So,
Okay.
yeah.
That sounds great. And we did, just so you know, Andrea, we did identify priority components where we know there's the highest climate impacts in the IT supply chain as part of the development of the climate criteria. And we have those highlighted, and we have optional criteria that manufacturers can achieve if they work with those key parts of their supply chain to help them to reduce their climate impacts in terms of using renewable electricity in there to power their facilities and other things. So so that might be helpful too if you guys decide you want to focus in on, you know, key parts of the supply chain as well.
Absolutely. And I think that that'll be so great to have you present that to us. I think that would be a really valuable thing for this wider group coming up. So
Great.
yeah,
Awesome.
excited to learn about it. All right, folks, I don't know if there's anything else anybody wants to chat about before we sign off. All right. Well, have a good day. We will see some folks. Loza, will see you in Dublin. I hope other people perhaps might book a last minute ticket. It'll be a lot of fun.
What are the dates again, Andrea?
It is.
Sounds like Holly's thinking about it.
I'd love to go, but yeah.
From 29th of April.
Yeah, our presentation is on the 30th of April.
Oh, I'm going to the National Association of State CIOs instead. I
That
think
doesn't
your
sound
party
as
is going to be
fun.
more fun. Yeah.
Well, make sure you have, we do future events. We are international, so we will be in Taiwan in August. We'll be in Canada in September. We'll be in Taiwan in August. We will be in Singapore in September, and then we'll be back in the United States in San Jose for our global summit, which is our largest event in October.
Yeah.
So
That one I have on my agenda for sure. And maybe if you can point me to where I see the other dates, that would be awesome. And I will share that with my team and see if we can get to some of the other ones too.
Yeah, at opencompute.org on the top menu, if you hover over events, it'll show the top major 5 events. There's also future events, which may include our partners. But those top 5, which are the ones I just mentioned, are listed.
Okay.
Awesome.
Awesome.
I'll also just say for the whole group, OCP events are really amazing in the fact that we take a whole day, like all the sustainability presentations and networking happens on the same day. So it's like you have a whole track where you're with folks that are working on the same problems as you. It's an incredible opportunity for networking and learning.
Wow.
Cool.
Great.
Well, thanks everybody. See you soon.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
Cheers, y'all.
Thank you. Nice to meet you
See you
all.
soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.